Well, hello, Jazz, and hello, everybody else who is tuning in today. How are you, Jazz?
I'm good. I'm here.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
Are you excited
awake.
for today? Are you excited for today's podcast?
Well, we discussed it this morning, and we are very passionate about being honest. So, to be honest,
Yes, yes. It's going to be a
I
good one.
look, I'm not excited as much as yes. Okay, this is something that's important.
Well, I have some great news for you, Jazz. We actually have a podcast channel that is now live as well. People can download these in audio format. But
Wow.
welcome to our Lunch Out Loud podcast for those who are tuning in on Facebook Live, because each week Jazz and I explore what it means, or on YouTube. You might be on YouTube right now. Each week, Jazz and I explore what it means to live out the gospel in our everyday life, but the reality is, this is discipleship. This is what this is. This is an opportunity for us to thrash out life as iron sharpens iron, so one sharpens another. And this is an opportunity for us to sort of go through and talk about what you've got going on in your life, Jazz, or what others have going on in their life when we have a special guest. And we go through a process of discipleship. What's the Bible saying? How do we do it? What does it actually mean? Because sometimes we think we know what it means, and then we find out we had no idea what it means. We've had some great time, and people can join us. They can add their comments in and questions in as we go along. All right, you ready for today's big topic, Jazz, that you rang me about and said, please, can we do anything but this?
Yes.
Let me start by asking you, why were you worried about this topic today?
I think just like for me personally, at the moment, it's something that's quite raw, and I'm still very uncomfortable with being completely vulnerable. I've definitely learned over the years how important it is to be vulnerable.
Yep.
But I am still quite picky with the extent of it and the situations in which I let myself do that.
Well, Jazz, you need to relax today. It's just you, me, and the World Wide Web. So there's hardly anyone. Look, I mean, no one even watches this thing anyway, so don't worry about it. It's just basically you and me chatting and hanging out, and maybe the few other people who tune in. And I want you to tune in today, because I think it is going to be really important that we get a hold of what today is about. And today is all about that moment that you have when you are done, when you're over it, when you're ready to quit, when you've had enough, and when you're just like, no, I'm serious. I actually don't care what you say. I don't want to keep going. I don't want to hear all your wisdom. I don't want to hear your good talk right now. I am done, ready to quit. You ever felt like that?
Yes, very often.
Okay, so we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about whether there's any hope for us when we get to that point, or whether we're just kidding ourselves. Are we just having ourselves on? And realistically, how do we do it well? And how do we stop getting to that point where we're ready to quit? How do we stop, and how do we have a better, healthier balance as well? So, Jazz, we're going to kick it off, and I'm going to ask you some questions. And let me just give a bit of a story behind all of this as well. Jazz and I have known each other for nearly 10 years. Not quite 10 years, but it'd be getting close to 10 years that we've known each other for. And in that time, we've worked together. And then Jazz and I, we came out. Jazz was a part of our planting team. He helped us plant a church out here in Ipswich, which was been a heck of a journey. And Jazz is very much a part of our family, loved by my daughters and my wife as well. But I know some of the stuff that Jazz has gone through and is going through right now. And so we're going to talk about some of your stories, some of my stories in this, and even some of my wife's stories in this. And I'm going to set it up by exposing some of us as well in this. Being in church is tough, hey? Like, being a Christian is tough, but let me just make it a bit safer for a start. Sometimes when you're a church leader, you genuinely have enough of people, and you have enough of the whole thing that we're doing. And I remember hearing Rick Warren speak once, and he was speaking to a bunch of leaders, and he said, I'm much better now. I don't feel like quitting every Monday. It's only every second Monday. And I was like, all right, I can all right, I can relate to that. I can fully relate to that. There are so many times where we're just over it. We just want to quit. We just want to give up. We are done in this whole church and ministry journey. And we can get into some more specifics of those, but I want to talk about some of yours, Jazz. What are the times in your life or in your journey where you've actually had enough? Like, what's one that you can put a pinpoint on that you can remember? I remember this was the moment where I was like, I could just run away from you all right now.
Oh, like there's been so many. To be specific, actually, there's even a point this year. So at the start of the year, I like last year, I recognized, okay, I'm really burnt out. I need to deal with a lot of things that I just didn't realize I had to deal with. Like internal dealing with, like just issues. I was like, oh, okay, wow, I didn't realize that was there, and that's actually why I have a breakdown over things. And so even at the start of this year, I was really struggling because I just started that journey, and I remember I was dropping something off to my mum. So my mum's a teacher. I was dropping something off to her school. I remember on the drive there actually saying to the Lord, I can't do this anymore. You asked me to do this year. He asked me, he said, have hope again this year, because last year I was like literally like hopeless. And then I said to him, I'll give you this year. And then once this year is over, if things have not changed, if I'm still in the same place, I'm done with going to church. I'm done with being friends with people I know. I'm just going to live with just you, Lord. I don't want anything to do with anything else. So yeah, that was like earlier this year. And then I realized,
how did you get to that point? Like, what was going on in your life that you got to that point? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I think I was just frustrated with like there's a lot of pain. So, if anyone who's ever done any kind of self-growth knows, or anyone who has knows that when you're doing growth and self-growth, it's very painful because you're bringing up things that you thought you dealt with or you hadn't realized you hadn't dealt with or that was even there. So it was bringing out these things that were quite painful, and then just not really seeing the future, because I'm a planner. So I feel that the Lord is really trying to teach me to not be putting my hope in the future and not but for me that's really scary because I need to have plans, I need to have deadlines, I need to have things that I'm looking forward to and working towards, and so that's really scary for me.
Why is it scary?
Because I like to be in control.
Why do you like to be in control?
Because I can trust myself.
But
I can't trust myself.
So you can trust yourself, but you can't trust God? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, basically.
Why can't you trust God?
I think that there's been a lot of situations in my life, a lot of pain in my life where my trust hasn't worked out. I've trusted in people, I've trusted in things, and that hasn't come through. And so I think that just makes it even harder to trust in the Lord, because I feel at times that a lot of things he's spoken over me or said to me, or even just like the basic promises, like if you are living in his pathways, this is how you will be abundantly blessed. And I find it difficult to see that, like see how he's working. So that's quite challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just get this straight. So you're basically saying because people have let you down, that means that you can't trust God. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So does that mean that you see God through the filter of other people rather than seeing other people through the filter of God?
It does.
So who is God to you then? Like, who is God?
I feel like I'm of two minds. Like, I do know who the Lord is because I've walked basically my whole life with him, but I'm still so uncertain of things that it makes it hard to, like, for example, when I casually went to Everest Space Camp.
No big deal. Yeah.
I actually forget about it all the time. But we had to cross a lot of bridges above like really deep canyons, and they were really scary. And I'm terrified of heights. And I saw people walking in front of me. I saw friggin' herds of yaks being herded across these bridges.
Wow.
But when it came to my turn, I was terrified that even though the bridge had proven itself as being strong and it was supportive and it helped people actually do what, like, it did its job. The bridge was doing its job as a bridge. But I still thought, well, I don't know if when I go to cross it, if it's going to fail me.
Why? Why do you think like that?
I don't know. Like, oh, look, if anyone's knows about the Enneagram, I'm a Enneagram type 6. And so that means that there's not that we categorize ourselves and stereotype ourselves into these things, but it does help us understand how we think. And so my kind of thinking is that I think of all the worst case scenarios. And when I'm being in a healthy mindset, that means that I'm like, oh, I'm able to plan for things and ensure that things go smoothly. But when I'm not in a healthy mindset, I'm like, okay, there is only one option, and that option is that everything will fail.
Okay, so you get fixated on this idea that this bridge is going to fail, or that life is going to fail you, and blah, 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 blah. Like, your mind naturally goes to that place. So then how do you get yourself out of that? Because you did it, right? You crossed those bridges.
Yeah.
How?
I think sometimes I was actually standing there thinking to myself, well, if I die, I die.
Right? Okay, yep. Which is pretty courageous. So you got to face that fear, yeah?
Yeah. But like in real life, there's people in my life who actually, including you, will be quite firm and say, hey, this is not a good mindset. I've been seeing a counselor, and that's been teaching me about neural pathways and just understanding that, hey, we need to actually change our thinking. And it's not just like that, oh, when you think of something bad, think of something good. It's actually like, okay, if this is what you're thinking, so it's a negative thought that you're thinking, and if you've got a fear in it, then you actually need to counter it with the truth and keep doing it. Like you were telling us the other day at Life Group House Church that you spent 6 months telling yourself every day that the Lord loves you.
Yeah.
And so like for me, I like things to be done straight away. Like, let's be efficient and move on to the next thing. And so understanding that it's going to take time is a big thing for me. And then just actually seeking out truth on things. Like, if my belief is that I can't trust the Lord, then I've got to go and find the scriptures and the times he actually has proven himself to me, and remind myself of that consistently every time I do have a fear or doubt come up that, oh, actually it's not trustworthy.
But do you think that you run the risk of ignoring those thoughts that are in your mind and never actually dealing with them well? Like, I know what you're saying, but if those thoughts keep coming up, is it because you're not actually questioning them to the nth degree? Maybe,
yeah. Like, maybe for some people that might be true. I know for me that I get quite obsessive, so it's not healthy to delve into it too much. But this is also why it's great to have a counselor, and it's really great to get into the habit of journaling, because you can actually acknowledge and recognize those thoughts and affirm them, because it's not affirm, but kind of go like, you are, I think my counselor said this to me actually one time, like you can say to your feelings and your thoughts, you are valid, but you're not going to dictate my life.
Yeah.
But yeah, with me, I just get quite obsessive, and then I'll think of it very, very for a long time, like more than what's healthy and productive.
My point in that is that I think sometimes what we do is we have these deep-rooted thoughts, and we don't take the time to dig around them to actually pull the roots up. And so we sort of pull the surface of it off, and we kind of go, well, it's dealt with now, but they re-emerge. The same patterns re-emerge. And I'm really interested in actually, how do we change those patterns? Because, Jazz, you've done flipping amazing things in your life. You've got a master's degree, mate. Like, you've gone and climbed to the base of Mount Everest, which is no mean feat. People die on that journey, Jazz. And you are the sort of person you run a business. You and your sister run a business, which is hell on earth in itself, because I've seen how you and your sister talk together sometimes. I'm like, talk about wanting to quit. Why haven't you quit that yet? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you've overcome so many obstacles and hurdles, and then the personal things that you overcome. How do you still have these thoughts in your mind of what you can't do?
I have no idea. Like, and I guess even that's testament to the Lord's faithfulness, the fact that I've been able to do so many things and still be here. But then, yeah, just, I don't know, like.
Why are you not enough?
Oh, I don't know. I think that maybe.
Let's get deep. Come on, don't you tell me you don't know. Why are you not enough? All this comparing yourself, all this, that, and the other. Oh, the bridge won't work for me, and I still haven't done this. And I said, when are you going to be enough? Like, why are you not enough?
I don't know. Because the thing is, we don't have to be enough to come to God. Like,
right?
So I don't know why I have this high expectation on myself to be achieving certain things or, yeah, like be someone or something when it's like it actually doesn't even matter if we are enough or not. And
but doesn't it?
What do you mean?
Well, does it or doesn't it? Because if you're saying that, why do you live in a way that doesn't say that?
Oh, I don't know. This is what I'm trying to deal with at the moment. Yeah, like this is definitely an area that right now I'm like, oh, okay, we need to delve into this. Actually, I wrote the other day, I was journaling, and I realized that I do have like a very big perfectionist mindset. And so I think that I have to do everything perfectly. I have to make all the right choices all the time. And if I don't, then I'm a failure, and that means I'm bad, and that means I'm not good enough. And I had to write out to myself, you will never be perfect, but you will always be loved. And so I'm trying to remind myself of that, because it's like, we don't have to, like, this is literally what it means when it says we don't have to try or strive or do or be anything for the Lord. And I would never say to someone, and this is the thing, I would never say to anyone else who would come to me as a friend or for some guidance and then be like, oh, I've done this. What do I do? I would never say to them, oh, go deal with that. And then maybe once you've overcome that, you'll be good enough and you can come into the Lord's presence.
Yeah.
Like,
so, and this is the thing, right? And you know it for other people, but so harsh on ourselves that for some reason we look at ourselves and I don't think you're alone, Chaz. I think that, and this is why I wanted to do this with you today, is because I think that this represents so many of us, where we're like, I need chat. If I had just done this, then I would have been enough. No wonder I didn't get the blessing from God, because I actually didn't read my Bible enough. I actually didn't pray enough. I actually didn't serve enough. That sin, that's why I didn't get God to move in my life. Where does that come from? Where does that thinking come from? That self-condemnation and judgment.
I think it's just a lot of false, like a lot of lies that just work their ways into our hearts. And yeah, like, I mean, there's a truth to it. We never will be good enough, but that's why the Lord sent Jesus. He's like, we'd never achieve the law. So he was like, that's fine. I'll do it for you.
Right. Yes.
And so it is really living with such a religious spirit. I think maybe some people will think about religious spirits and think of like the Pharisees, but even just sitting here thinking that I am good enough or I have the power to actually make myself good enough is quite a religious spirit. It's going, I'm going to do I'm going to take God's place. So, we hear it all the time. I was like, Jesus already died on the cross for you. But then we don't actually recognize that means to the extent of, hey, you can just come as you are. You don't have to worry about being good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's a great question. So we do this live on Facebook. For those who are listening to our podcast, you can tune in on Tuesdays at 12 o'clock. Just got a question through from Elsie. So does this mean, or essentially she's asking, that we don't believe that what Jesus did was enough? Wow. That is such a great question, because I think our automatic answer would want to be yes to that or no to that. Of course, what Jesus did is enough. And yet we live in a way that's like, no, it wasn't enough. Yeah. It makes no sense. We're living a lie. I often, when I'm doing a bit of pastoral care with people or some leadership stuff, when they're saying things that aren't true, I say, I just need to stop you right now, because there's some there's some fairy poo on your head. And they'll be like, what? I'll be like, yeah, I can see fairy poo. And they'll be like, no, there's not. I say, how do you know there's not? And they say, because fairies don't exist. And I say, so you're not going to base your actions upon a lie.
Yeah.
But yet we are. We're basing our actions upon a lie because we actually believe it. The truth is, and that really challenges us to our core, why do we not believe that what Jesus did was enough? And this comes down to that forgiveness thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we don't forgive ourselves, remember when we spoke a few weeks ago about forgiveness?
Mm-hmm. I feel like I need to revisit that.
Yeah, right. Go back and listen to it. It was really, really good because when we don't forgive ourselves, we actually place our who does the forgiving and who does the judging? Christ, right? That's God's job. So when we don't forgive ourselves, we literally put our place on the throne of God and say, step aside and let me judge me.
Yeah. And I realized that I actually I judge myself quite harshly. So I'm taking the Lord's place over my own life.
Right.
Which means that I'm like, I guess it's almost like, oh God, you were wrong when you said that.
Yeah, right.
I'm forgiven. Like, you're actually wrong. So I'm going to do what I can, which is really bad self-talk, self-condemnation, shaming myself, because I'm like, well, I need to be punished for this. So that means I need to do something instead of going, actually, the Lord's already covered that. Like, someone's already went through that. Can we say that Jesus was punished for us?
Yes. That's exactly what it was. Yes, that's the right word.
So, I don't remember what I was reading the other day, but it was basically saying that, I think it was something around this. It was like, maybe I thought of it. Maybe I read it in my journal. But basically, when we keep punishing ourselves for things, that's like punishing Jesus all over again, or like saying that your punishment wasn't enough. I need to keep doing some more, because then if I try a little bit harder, I'll be more acceptable to God when I go to him. So maybe I'll still be bad, but I won't be as bad.
Right. Yazzie has asked us a question on our live Facebook recording of our podcast. She's just said, when we judge or punish ourselves, is that when we separate ourselves from God, or is that essentially separating ourselves from God? Like, think about that for a moment. Like, ultimately, when
it's true.
Yeah,
because that's making a whole new law. And that's what he came to do. He came to fulfill the law and then allow us to have that connection again. So me saying like, oh, I've now got to punish myself is basically me going, well, your law's not enough, so I'm going to make a new law. And that is so me, actually.
And here's the thing, Jazz, right? You know deep down in your heart that stuff's not true. And there's a tension within us. And that tension can sometimes be utterly exhausting. And I think that the reason that sometimes we don't have the ability to keep moving forward, that we can't actually stand up, is because we're exhausted, not necessarily from the journey that God's placed us on, but from the tension of self-condemnation that's inside of us. I'm not good enough. I can't possibly do this. It doesn't matter that 1,000 other people have crossed that bridge. It's still going to break for me. I know that the Bible says that all these people are going to have blessings, but I know why I don't have it. I don't have it because I'm not good enough. So it's such a self-centered thinking that we know isn't right, and it's an exhausting tension. And so the question is, how do we get rid of that tension? Well,
you tell me. You're my pastor.
You're looking for the easy way out there, right?
Do you want to answer, or do you want me to have a go at it before you answer?
I want you to have a go. Have a crack, Jazz. How do we get out of it?
Like, so if it's exhausting, it's because we're not meant to be doing it. And if we're not meant to be doing it, it means we're meant to be doing something else. And my very good friend Dimity always tells me that the Bible doesn't tell us to do anything in striving, except for striving to go into his presence. And when I think about the times when I felt the most at peace, the most calm, and like actually like, yep, I can do this, are those times when I'm literally like, I can't do anything in my own strength, and I need to just rest in the Lord. And this might be a little bit controversial, but we live in such a capitalist society that our big focus is always on being productive, on doing, and our value is based on doing. And so we get to a place in our Christian, like, it translates into our Christianity where we think, well, I have to be doing something. I have to prove my value in doing. I have to prove that I'm worth even God's sacrifice by being good enough. So that means I have to try and keep laws. I have to try and fix myself up before I come to him. I need to always be productive. And so we get into this headspace where it's like, if I'm not doing anything, I'm not being productive, I'm not valuable, and I'm not good enough. And then, like we tire ourselves out trying to do things instead of just sitting there and being like, well, God created the earth and humans, the Garden of Eden, as a place to relax and enjoy ourselves.
Right.
And we're getting to a point in society where we enjoy ourselves and we relax on the weekends. And even then, we might be doing extra study, which we'll do on the weekends. So we're not resting. We're not allowing him to move. Everything's got to be our own efforts, our own merits.
God gives us rest, but we don't always take the rest that he gives us, hey?
Yes, because I just spent the last 2 years of my life doing that.
Let me give you another one as well. If only there was a Bible verse that was relating to everything that you just said, Jazz. Wouldn't that be nice? If there was a nice, neat Bible verse that covered that. I think if there was, it would say something along the lines of, don't conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is. His good and his pleasing and his perfect will. If only that would be what I would think the Bible verse would say anyway. Is that it's like, what? Like, okay, literally it's giving you instruction. So as a person who likes to plan, if only there was a plan that was written out for you to follow, don't conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed. And this is for all those who are listening or this same reality, is that we get caught in this perspective of I have to be good enough, I have to perform enough, I have to show up enough in order to please God. And yet the Bible tells us that we've got to not conform to that thinking, that we've got to be renewed by the transformation of our mind. It's our mind that's tripping us up on this. It's our mind that's getting exhausted by this. That's where the self-doubt and that self-condemnation comes from. You know why we don't keep on going? We're exhausting our minds with imaginations that aren't of God.
Yeah.
You know what I like about it? It says in here, then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good and his pleasing, his perfect will. What I like about that thought is I like the fact that the Bible gives us permission to test it out. Try it God's way. Actually try it convincing yourself for a week that you're enough. Just try it. I mean, you spent a lifetime telling yourself you're not. Why not spend a week telling yourself you are? Then test it and see if God's will is better than yours.
Yeah. That is a very good plan, and I fully intend on doing that.
But?
Oh, no buts. No, I'll do it.
Okay, good. I want to know what it looks like then for you to then go, no, I'm not going to allow myself to go down the rabbit hole of negative thinking about who I am, about why I'm not enough. Instead, every time I'm going to allow my mind to be transformed.
I think it'll literally be just like, I'll probably write it on my hand. And I'll probably put a reminder on my mirror and a reminder in my car as well. So I can see it in front of my face all the time until it actually becomes a habit. And just like, whatever thought comes up, even if it doesn't at face value have anything to do with worth or being enough, I'll just keep repeating it.
I think part of the thing that I wanted to talk about today, when I thought about when we don't want to keep going, I think I wanted to address where is it that we're trying to get to. When we know where we're trying to get to, it makes it easy to keep going. So, for instance, when you're going on a long driving journey as a kid and you're in the back seat of the car and it feels like it's taking forever, what's the question that you ask your parents?
Are we there yet?
Are we there yet? Why? Because they know, they have the perspective of how much further there is to go because they're paying attention to the road. And so say it's a 600-kilometer journey, that's going to take us that 6 to 7 hours, something like that, maybe 8 hours, depending on roadworks, traffic, how many stops we do, whatever, right? And so they go, hang on, I've been driving now for 4.5 hours, 5 hours. I know how much longer there is to go. They know where they're going. They know what the journey looks like. And now we have phones that tell us and give us that information. When we know where we're going, that removes some of the stress of that.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is going, when we're saying, I'm done, we're saying we're done with. But when you felt that in the past, what do you feel the most done with?
Oh, look.
Don't hesitate. Give us a good, real, honest answer here.
Like, I think done with hoping, because it's really painful to hope, because when you've got hope, it's very exciting. It's very nice. You're like, yeah, something to look forward to. Cool. And then as that consistently doesn't come to pass, it gets less exciting and more tiring and disappointing. Yeah, like there's been a lot of times in my life when I've thought I was working towards a goal. I thought I was doing working towards something, or thought that there was an end goal in like whatever area it was. And then getting to the end and being like, oh, well, not even getting to the end, but like having disappointments where it's like, oh, that's not true. Like that's not going to happen, or that's not the right pathway. And so it's like, oh my gosh, it's like, yeah, I feel like that's like not really, I didn't.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. So as soon as you said that, it reminded me, because we're doing that driving analogy before. So I went up to the coast with a mate of mine up at the sunny coast. This was years ago. I think we only had Anaya at the time. That's how long ago it was, right? And he was living up there, and we went to his house, and then he said, I just got to pick up something from my mate's house. It's just around the corner. Well, yeah, cool, no worries. He goes, just follow me. So we get in our car and we're following behind him, and it's probably like minimum 15. It felt like probably more like half an hour. But let's just say safely, it was a 20-minute drive away from his house. Every time we kept on driving, Lisa and I would look to each other and be like, what is with this bloke? He said it was around the corner. It is just definitely not around the corner. And when we got there, we're like, bro, you said it was around the corner. He goes, yeah, that's the sunny coast around the corner. I was like, man, this is so frustrating. Like, and I think part of it is sometimes we have our hope or our expectation of what we have perceived something to be. And when it's not that, for instance, God says, hey, I'm going to do this in your life. And you're like, cool, it's around the corner. I got this. Boom, let's go. God said it. It's happening today. In fact, it's happened yesterday. And then we go around and we're driving around for 15 minutes going, where are we going? I actually don't know where I'm going right now. I'm done with this. I'm ready to give up. I'm ready to stop following this geezer.
Yeah.
Feel familiar?
Exactly it. And I feel like it's difficult because I want to trust the Lord, and I know He's got good plans for me, but I like to know those plans.
Right.
And not knowing is the hardest part, I think. Like if He said to me, here's what's going to happen. And like, I think a lot of people are like, oh, I wouldn't want to know what the future is because I wouldn't like, I don't know if you've heard that, like how people are like, oh, I wouldn't want to know what the future is because I think I wouldn't have wanted to know what the journey was because I think if I did, then I would have just given up at the start. I feel like I'm the opposite. I need to know everything so I can prepare myself. So I don't like when hardships come. Like, you know, if I'm going for a run and then like suddenly there's like a lot of hills and I'm like, I wasn't prepared for hills. as opposed, and it's still quite difficult, as opposed to like, oh, I've run this track a million times, I know where all the hard bits are, I'm prepared for this. And so not that having no preparation is very difficult for me, because I'm like, I need to know when it's going to get rough.
There's so many people in the comments right now. Jazz has got, get it, I get it, that's me, that's me, that's me. So I don't think you're alone in this. This is the whole point. Is it's like, how do we do well in that time? You know, yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, one thing that I always remind a lot of people with, and I really need to keep reminding myself with, is I don't even know where I heard it, but because I should probably like make sure I'm getting the scriptural references right and everything. But in Daniel, there's a point where he's praying because there's some kind of demonic bondage somewhere. And he keeps praying and praying and praying. And he was like, I think it's 21 days praying. And on the 21st day, the angel of the Lord came to him and said, I've been fighting this other demonic entity that's going on. Yeah. And it's like, if we give up on day 10 or day 20 even, then we're not going to have that breakthrough that we're waiting for. And I think that's one thing that really has kept me going so many times when I've been like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm like, it could be day 20. So or it could be day 10 as well, but that still means there's a day 21 when our breakthrough is going to come. And so I've kept doing it.
Yeah.
Hopeful for day 21.
How do we change our expectation of, rather than what God's going to do, to actually the goal being relationship with God? Do you know what I'm saying by that, Jazz? It's like, God, when are you going to do this thing for me that you said you're going to do? The reality is you get to ask that of God.
Okay, so I've asked him that.
No, but what I'm saying is you get to ask it. You're not distant enough that he's like, I'm sorry, but your sin separates me. I'm sorry. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have the ability to be in relationship with God. When is that going to be enough? When is just being with God going to be enough? Not what God's going to do for you.
Sometimes I'm like, yes, this is enough. It's so good. But then again, like, the mindsets of the world just come in and they steal that peace and that joy. And then I have to go back to that quiet place and sit there again with him. And, well, maybe I don't need to keep going back. I need to just stay there.
So then the question is, what if it was just God? What if that was it? What if the end of this journey was just relationship with you and God? Is that enough?
Yes. But then why do we have all these other, like, dreams and aspirations? If our only goal is to be with the Lord, and our only goal is to have that beautiful relationship with him, that union with him, then why do we have all these other things that are not like even bad desires? They're just good dreams, good desires, good goals. So why do we have those if that's not the ultimate?
That's a great question, Jazz. So here's what I'm thinking as we're sort of talking. The reason why I say, is God enough? There's so many thoughts around this anyway. I think that the reality is that if anything surpasses God being the ultimate, like an intimacy and a deep relationship with God, it becomes a greater value. And if God is not enough to fully satisfy us, and we need an activity or an event or a purpose or a goal that's outside of that, then that becomes more important along the way with God. So on the way to getting those things, or on the way to doing or seeing those things or achieving those things, or whatever it is, whatever that goal is. Okay, let's just say it's a ministry goal, and I know some of yours, I'm not going to expose them here because they're private, but whatever it might be. So let's just say for us it's to grow a bigger church, or whatever it might be, to grow a bigger network of home churches right now. Whatever it might be, if that's our goal, if that surpasses relationship with God along the way, then God isn't satisfying me. Does that make sense? So that way, it doesn't matter whether one day I get it or one day I don't. It doesn't matter whether this, that, or the other. I can still take that sigh at the end of the day and go, well, at least I've still got you, God.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, I think about the times that we've been close to wanting to walk away and quit everything, and Lisa and I will just be like, you know what? At least we've still got God.
Mhm.
If everything else fades and all we had was Him, and all we had was
Mhm.
authentically chasing Him, is that enough?
Mhm. Mhm. Well, it should be.
I know it should be, but it's not always. That's the truth. It's not always.
Do you think that there's also like a guilt though, because we see, and like it's not wrong, but maybe it's wrongly emphasized that, hey, if you're a Christian, you should be able to do all of these things as well. You need to be like, you know, we talk about like, oh, as a Christian, we should see these fruits in our lives. We should be, I think I've seen it a lot happen to a lot of my friends and even to myself, where you think that the extent of your relationship with God is coming from the fact that, oh, I've been elevated to these positions of leadership, or I've been elevated to these positions, or like
for sure.
I've got like giftings, like, and so we feel like, oh, I'm not a leader, so that means I'm not
a good Christian.
and that means that I don't have as good a relationship with Christ. And so we start to focus on like these things which we're told are fruit. And even for myself, I've gone through seasons where I've been like, Lord, I want to have like all these giftings in my life. And then when I don't get it, even after I've been consistently doing what I thought I should do, I felt discouraged because I'm like, well, maybe I don't have as good a relationship with God as I thought, because I haven't been able to achieve these things. And so we get sucked into this guilt trip of, well, I'm not good enough because I can't achieve these things because I don't have these fruits in my life. So I have to try harder.
Yeah. Nelly, keep going. Like I'm high-fiving you right now, Jazz. 100%. Keep going with it, because it's like that's exactly what's happening. So what's the counter to that?
Yeah. Well,
you know the counter to that. You're good enough.
Well, like, it doesn't matter if we can heal and intercede and have the gift of prophecy. Like, all those fruits are incredible, and they are evidence of a relationship with God. But is the greatest evidence something else?
Which is what?
I guess just being with Him, having that.
Yes. Okay. So what is the greatest fruit that we should have in our life or desire?
Love.
Oh yeah,
Salvation.
That's a good one. Well, okay, love is good. Salvation is good. They're all good things. But what are the fruits that you see? You're confusing gifts and fruits too, by the way. What's the difference between a fruit and a gift?
But like, we have both.
Interchanging. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
When I think about fruits, though, here's what I think about. I think about the fruits of the Spirit. Okay, they're the things that actually are evidence of our intensity of our relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
How much, how strong, how healthy are the fruits of the Spirit in your life? That's it.
And is it in that? So in the Passion Translation, it lists the fruit of the Spirit not as like separate things, but they're all manifestations of love in different ways.
Okay, that's interesting.
And then you've got 1 Corinthians 13, where it says like, you can do all these things, but if you don't have love, like, the greatest of everything that we have is love.
It's love. Yeah, that's right. Exactly right. Because God is love.
Mm-hmm.
God is love. That's it. And so he's the transformation and the restoration of the idea and the picture of love. There's no doubt about that. And I think you're bang on, Jazz. What we do sometimes is we replace fruit for gift. And sometimes we even replace gift for title and title for status. And so all of a sudden we go from this journey of, I thought I was a good Christian, but I'm not on a platform, or I didn't get asked to do this thing, or I'm not doing this particular thing, or this person seems to have more prophecy. This person seems, and again, it comes down to, like, you look at that, that's comparison. Mm-hmm. And where in the Bible does it suggest that we have comparison? The only thing we should compare ourselves to is the Word of God. The only thing we should compare ourselves to is Christ Jesus. Actually, we've got another really great comment here from Elsie. This is on our Facebook during our live podcast. Elsie says, perhaps we need a revelation of who God really is, and allow that to be what sustains us, rather than the idea of a good God who can give us good things. do we actually know God?
Mm.
Bang. That's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that we've got to keep going towards is not another goal, is not another destination, is not another business to start, is not another church title to obtain, is not another this, that, or the other. The thing that we've got to keep going towards is a greater idea of who God is, a stronger relationship with who God is, and actually allow the fruits of the Spirit to be a gift to us that sustains us as well. When you think about a fruit, right? When you think about it, I look at it and go, who gets to benefit from the fruits that are on our life? If there's, let's just say there's the gift of love and of grace and all of those different fruits, who benefits from that?
Well, now that you're saying that, I'm thinking we should be the first ones to benefit from that.
Almost. Who gets the first fruits?
God?
God, right? If you look at the Old Testament about how they used to do the first fruits, is that they would have these almost like this party with God, and they would eat their first fruits with God. So you know what it looks like? You know what God wants more than anything? He wants for you to feel every single one of those fruits of the Spirit for yourself from Him.
Yeah, and that's how we can do it to others.
Right?
Which is
That's
something
exactly
I've been talking about for like a week now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem is that we're driving for the wrong destination, that we're walking towards the wrong area, and we're wondering why we're not getting anywhere, why we feel exhausted, and why we feel this internal tension within us. And so the thing that we want to land on, I want you to keep going, Jez. I want me to keep going on those days that I want to quit. I want us both to keep going, because it's not about what we have or haven't achieved yet. It is actually about a greater and a deeper understanding of who God is and how much He loves us. That's what we've got to keep pursuing. We've got to keep pursuing a greater understanding of His love, a greater understanding of what He feels for us. Because when we can do that, the goals and all those things, they'll take care of themselves. And we can trust Him more when we have a greater level of relationship with Him.
Such a good, easy goal, just to be like, God, I'm just going to let you show your kindness to me today.
Right?
Instead of going, oh, I'm going to go and try and be kind to everyone.
Right?
That's definitely an attitude of our own strength.
That's a great way of saying it. I couldn't have said it better. Like, it's better than how I was thinking about it. I'm just going to let you do this, that, or the other today.
Yeah. That's so nice. That makes me feel so like relaxed. Like, oh, yeah. I can do that.
Yeah. And that's how we keep going. Now you can lose your job and be like, oh, good, I'm going to let God show His kindness to me today. Now you can have a fight with your business partner, aka your sister, and so, oh, good, I'm going to let God show His grace to me today. Now you can handle disappointment and go, oh, good, I'm going to let God show His long suffering to me today, His love, His peace, His this, His that, or the other, because that's the goal. That's what we're going towards, not the objective of achieving more, not the objective of I've finally done this, that, or the other.
Yeah. And to be honest, like all of those things like titles and positions are like things I'm like, I don't actually want that.
We say that, but there's a bit of us inside that goes, I don't actually want it. Yes, I do. Yeah, that's me. That's me.
Like, I would like that just as an affirmation, but I don't want it for the responsibility that comes with it.
I mean, but the affirmation's still nice, right? But again, then we go, God, I'm not looking for a position to affirm me. I'm going to let you just affirm me today. Yeah, same thing, right?
Less responsibility.
Yeah, exactly right. Hey, I just want to thank you so much, Jez, for being so honest with us today. There are so many people that have related, including me, to what you've said and the journey that we are on together today as well. And what a beautiful place to have landed. I can see this lightness and this revelation that's coming out of you, which is so awesome to witness and to be a part of. Hey, we want to thank everyone who's tuned in today, in and out. Make sure you listen to the whole thing. You can download the podcast now. We'll make sure that we put the link on our City Point Ipswich Facebook page and on our Instagram as well. And tune in next week where we once again keep on sharpening each other, explore bigger, better topics, and we just keep on learning from one another. Hey, it's been great having you join us. Thanks for all your comments. Thanks for all that you guys have done. And we do go back and read them all. So please keep adding them even as you're watching this later on. Love you guys heaps, and thank you so much for tuning in today.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.